Yes. Good morning, everyone. Today is Tuesday, September 17th, 2024. The time is now 10 a.m. I am calling this meeting of the State Board of Elections to order. May we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Mrs. Calvin, please.
Ms. Ballard-Croft?
Here.
Ms. Cray?
Present.
Ms. Genovese?
Here.
Ms. McCrory?
Here.
Mr. Turbin?
Here.
Mr. Brett?
Here.
Vice Chair Donahue? Chair Watson?
Here. Is there a motion and approval for the minutes of the April 23rd meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Mrs. Calvin.
Ms. Ballard-Croft?
Yes.
Ms. Cray?
Yes.
Ms. Genovese?
Yes.
Ms. McCrory?
Yes.
Mr. Turbin?
Yes.
Mr. Brett?
Yes.
Vice Chair Donahue? Member McCrory, you have her proxy.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
Vice Chair Chair Watson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Mrs. Calvin. Is there a motion and a second to recess the State Board of Elections and reconvene as the State Officers Electoral Board?
Motion. Second.
Roll call, please, Mrs. Calvin.
Ms. Bella Croft,
Yes.
Ms. Craig?
Yes.
Ms. Genovese?
Yes.
Ms. McCrory?
Yes.
Mr. Turbin?
Yes.
Mr. Brett?
Yes.
Vice Chair Donahue?
Yes.
Chair Watson?
Yes. I would now
Motion
call
passes.
thank you, Mrs. Calvin. I would now call the State Officers Electoral Board to order. The time is now 10:03 a.m. Is there a motion and a second for the approval of the minutes of the August 23rd State Officers Electoral Board meeting?
So moved.
Second. Second.
Roll call, please, Mrs. Calvin.
Ms. Bella Croft?
Yes.
Ms. Craig?
Yes.
Ms. Genovese?
Yes.
Ms. McCrory?
Yes.
Mr. Turbin?
Yes.
Mr. Brett?
Yes.
Vice Chair Donahue?
Yes.
Chair Watson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Mrs. Calvin. Is there a motion to adjourn the State Officers Electoral Board and reconvene as the State Board of Elections?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please, Mrs. Calvin.
Ms. Bella Croft?
Yes.
Ms. Craig?
Yes.
Ms. Genovese? Ms. McCrory?
Yes.
Mr. Turbin?
Yes.
Mr. Brett?
Yes.
Vice Chair Donahue?
Yes.
Chair Watson?
Yes. So
Motion
we're now,
passes.
thank you, Mrs. Calvin. We're now reconvening the State Board of Elections. Number 5 on the agenda is the report of the General Counsel. Madam General Counsel, we begin with campaign disclosure. Is that correct?
That's correct. Good morning, Madam Chair.
Good morning.
We have a number of cases today, so I am going to go through category by category. We will start with settlement offers. I have 2 appearances on settlement offers today. The first is agenda item FA1, SBE versus Warren County Republican Central Committee, 23 DQ6. I will read my recommendation, and then the committee will have the opportunity to speak. The committee is offering $5,050 to settle $5,050 in fines for late filing of the Schedule A1 in the 4th quarter of 2019, as well as late quarterly reports for the 4th quarter of 2019, 2nd quarter of 2020, 1st quarter of 2021, and 2nd and 3rd quarters of 2023. The offer is compliant in terms of balance and receipt ratios, and it also meets the 50% benchmark of Rule 125.450. The committee is not considered low dollar. However, it otherwise comports with settlement guidelines, so I recommend accepting the offer.
Are there any questions? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. It's a little harder because we're trying to communicate via video.
Are there any questions from any board members? Is there a motion to accept the recommendation of the General Counsel in SBE versus Warren County Republican Central Committee?
Madam Chair, there is someone here to speak on behalf of the committee.
Thank you. Would you please state your name and spell your last name for the record, please?
My name is Brenda Morrison, Morrison.
Please keep your voice up, Ms. Morrison. Thank you.
Well, I thank you for the recommendation, and I did include a statement with our settlement offer. And so I can only add that the previous treasurer indicated he thought that he didn't have to file if our balance was under $2,000. So I had made requests in the previous administration. I was involved, but I wasn't privy to any financial statements. I did ask a few times. So now we have resolved the matter by replacing our treasurer. She has taken the classes, and now we know that the campaign disclosure guide is our guidebook, and that's where all of our rules and everything are. So I would appreciate your consideration of our offer.
Thank you. Has there been a motion and a second to accept the recommendation of the general counsel? Could we have a motion second, please?
I move to accept the recommendation of the general counsel.
Second.
Second,
Roll call, please, Mrs. Calvin.
Ms. Ballarcroft,
Yes.
Ms. Craig?
yes.
Ms. Genovese? Ms. McCrory?
Yes.
Mr. Turbin?
Yes.
Mr. Brett?
Yes.
Vice Chair Donahue?
Yes.
Chair Watson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Mrs. Calvin.
Thank you.
Madam General Counsel?
Thank you. The next case for which we have an appearance on 5, agenda item 5A5, SCE versus Committee to Elect Nicole Bennett, 23AJ44. Is someone here on behalf of that committee? Is someone here on?
No.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I will read my recommendation, and then you'll have an opportunity to address the board. The committee is offering $1,375, which is 50% of what's owed. $2,750 is the total in fines for late filing of 3 Schedule A1s in the first quarter of 2023, and an additional late A1 in the second quarter of 2023. The offer is compliant in terms of balance and receipt ratios and is at the 50% standard. The committee was also considered low dollar as of its last quarterly report, so I recommend accepting the offer as it comports with settlement guidelines. And then, sir, if you could state your name.
There is no one in Springfield.
Oh, there is no one in Springfield. I'm sorry. I thought I heard someone. My apologies. Well, since we've already read it, I guess we might as well vote on it.
Is there a motion and a second to accept the recommendation
So
of
moved.
the general counsel?
Second. So moved.
Roll call, Mrs. Calvin.
Ms. Ballarcroft?
Yes.
Ms. Craig?
Yes.
Ms. Genovese?
Yes.
Ms. McCrory?
Yes.
Mr. Turbin?
Yes.
Mr. Brett?
Yes.
Vice Chair Donahue?
Yes.
Chair Watson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Mrs. Calvin. Madam General Counsel?
Thank you. Is there anyone here or in Springfield on agenda item 5A2, Friends of Wayne Zomke, 5A3, Friends of Gina Meeks, or 5A4, Friends of Jim Jorgensen?
None
I
in
see no one
Springfield.
For which one?
No.
None.
None
No
in
one in
Springfield.
Sorry about that. The video quality isn't perfect, although other people seem to be able to hear. So I think we can take this in 2 groups. My recommendation is to reject the settlement offers in agenda items 5A2 and 5A4. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Roll call, Mrs. Calvin?
Ms. Bellarcroft,
Yes.
Ms. Cray,
Yes.
Ms. Genovese,
Yes.
Ms. McCrory,
Yes.
Mr. Turbin,
Yes.
Mr. Brett,
Yes.
Vice Chair Donahue? Vice Chair Donahue?
Yes. Sorry, yes.
Chair Watson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Madam General Counsel?
And for agenda item 5A3, Friends of Gina Meeks, my recommendation is to accept the settlement offer. Is there a motion to accept that recommendation?
So moved.
I have
Second.
a question first, please, Ms. Chairman.
Yes,
Chair?
please. Member Cray?
I would like to ask Director Newman, I believe there are more outstanding fines for this committee. And if so, I would like to get that on the record.
And I
Mr.
actually have that
Newman, is
information
Mr.
as
Newman?
well.
I beg your pardon, Madam General Counsel.
I'm sorry about that. There are an additional 6,000 fines, $6,000 in fines that have not yet been assessed, but I'll let Director Newman take over.
Thanks, Marnie. Yes, so as you said, the committee, the situation for this committee is that the committee had stopped filing a couple of years ago. They were administratively terminated, and then they've now come back into the system and filed their missing reports. As a result of that, there are 4 more late reports that we have not yet assessed the penalties for, and that's going to total another $6,000 in fines. And we always like to make that clear so that they don't come back and say, well, I thought we were settling everything.
So we're
So-
just clarifying that we're not settling.
Not settling those other 6,000 because we haven't assessed them yet. That's correct.
So the fines have not yet been assessed?
Correct.
Do you still accept their recommendation? Do you still want us to accept your recommendation, Marnie? Or do you want us to wait until the fines are assessed
I
and
think the
hear
board
this
can
matter on a later calendar?
I think the board can proceed down either path. The committee isn't here, so if you want to reject the offer now and let them come back, I'm perfectly fine with that.
Do we want to reject the offer now, Member Turbin?
No, I do not. I would like, it's been clarified that there's still gonna be $6,000 when this thing comes up before Tom. So I would say accept the offer and remember that the $6,000 could be pending once they get that and could be cleared up by Tom to bring to us.
I agree with Mr. Turbin.
Okay, is there a motion to accept the offer on the table
So moved.
and the recommendation of the general counsel? Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, Mrs. Calvin?
Ms. Bellarcroft,
Yes.
Ms. Cray,
Yes.
Ms. Genovese,
Yes.
Ms. McCrory,
Yes.
Mr. Turbin,
Yes.
Mr. Brett,
Yes.
Vice Chair Donahue,
Yes.
Chair Watson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Mrs. Calvin. Madam General Counsel?
Moving on to appeals of campaign disclosure fines in which the hearing officer recommended granting the appeal. Is anyone present in Springfield or Chicago on agenda item 5A6, Whiteside County Republican Central Committee, 5A7, Illinois Pharmacists PAC, 5A8, Vernon Township Republicans, or 5A9, Citizens for Tom Klein?
None in
Okay,
Springfield.
There's no one in Springfield. Is there anyone in
Okay.
Chicago, Madam General Counsel?
Thank you very much. Someone was walking in the door, so I was checking that it wasn't one of these cases, but it is not. So my recommendation for items 5A7, 8, and 9 is to grant the appeal. So is there a motion to accept that recommendation of both myself and the hearing officer?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Mrs. Calvin?
Ms. Bellicroft?
Yes.
Ms. Craig?
Yes.
Ms. Genovese?
Yeah.
Ms. McCrory?
Yes.
Mr. Turbin?
Yes.
Mr. Brett?
Abstain.
Vice Chair Donahue?
Yes.
Chair Watson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Mrs. Calvin. As to number 6, Madam General Counsel?
As to item number 6, this one is a little bit different in that I agree with the hearing officer that the appeal can be granted, but I disagree as to the reason. So I wanted to give a little bit of explanation on that. The committee's defense is that it emailed a copy of a report to an unmonitored board email address within the 5-day filing window, even though the report was electronically filed. And I do not agree with the hearing officer that that's acceptable. Under Rule 100.150A, mandatory electronic filers may not send reports via email. However, under Rule 100.150C3, there is an exception that says that if the committee has not received formal notice that it is a mandatory electronic filer, bear with me for 1 second, that the civil penalties excuse me. Here we go. A paper report will be considered a timely filing if at least one previous report was required to have been filed electronically and the committee has never been notified by the board that it was required to electronically file its reports, provided that the report is filed electronically within 30 days after the notification referred to in subsection C1. If the report is not filed electronically within this 30-day period, it shall be considered as never having been filed, and the civil penalty is mandated by 26 Administrative Code 125.425 will accrue from the date of the filing deadline. So here, this committee has been a committee for a very long time. They've been electronically filing since 2008. However, we do not have any letter or any other notice in our file saying that they were ever notified that they're mandatory electronic filers. So I do think here there is an exception that can be granted to grant the appeal. However, I do ask that the Division of Campaign Disclosure send the committee a clear notice that electronic filing is mandatory for them going forward so that this issue is not repeated in the future. So
Thank you,
I would
Madam.
thank you.
Thank you, Madam General Counsel. Is there a motion to accept the recommendation of the hearing officer and the general counsel in this matter? A motion and second?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call, Mrs. Calvin.
Ms. Bell-
Madam Chair, Madam
Yes.
Chair, quickly, may I ask for a modification to the motion? It would be to accept the recommendation of the hearing officer as modified by the general counsel, because I'm asking you to grant the appeal for a different reason than the hearing officer.
Is there any objection to the modification from the board members?
No.
May I have a motion and second to the modification as indicated by the general counsel?
So moved.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, Mrs. Calvin, please.
Ms. Bellicroft?
Yes.
Ms. Craig?
Yes.
Ms. Genovese?
Yes.
Ms. McCrory?
Yes.
Mr. Turbin?
Yes.
Mr. Brett?
Yes.
Vice Chair Donahue?
Yes.
Vice Chair Watson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Mrs. Calvin. Madam General Counsel,
Thank you. We move on to an appeal of campaign disclosure fines in which the hearing officer recommends granting the appeal in part and denying it in part. This is agenda item 5A10, SBE versus Friends of Jesse Fuentes, 23 AD1. Is anyone present in Springfield on that matter?
No one is present.
Okay, thank you. So if the board wants a long explanation, I can give it, but otherwise my recommendation is to accept the recommendation of the hearing officer and to grant the appeal in part and deny it in part as stated by the hearing officer.
So moved.
Second?
roll call, please, Mrs. Calvin.
Ms. Ballard-Croft?
Yes.
Ms. Craig?
Yes.
Ms. Genovese?
Yes.
Ms. McCrory?
Yes.
Mr. Turbin?
Yes.
Mr. Brett?
Yes.
Vice Chair Donahue?
Yes.
Chair Watson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Mrs. Calvin. Madam General Counsel,
Thank you. Moving on to appeals of campaign disclosure fines, where the hearing officer recommends denying the appeal. I have several appearances on file. So first, let's call agenda item 5A11, SBE versus Friends of Mark Stevens, 23 AF9. Mr. Fogarty is here on behalf of the committee. I will read my recommendation, and then Mr. Fogarty will have an opportunity to address the board. The committee is appealing 17 separate civil penalty assessments for late disclosures between 26 and 62 days late of contributions of $1,000 or more. The contributions total $19,250. Excuse me. Let me double check something really quickly. I apologize, but there's an inconsistency in my notes.
Move to dismiss.
Correction, the total assessment is $19,750. The committee cites the treasurer's grandmother's death as a contributing factor to the lateness. I agree with the hearing officer that the appeal should be denied for lack of an adequate basis, except that the report should be amended to indicate the contributions were first disclosed in the September 2023 quarterly report, not the December 2023 quarterly report.
And thank you very much, Madam General Counsel. And may I address briefly? Madam Chair?
Mr. Fogarty, would you identify yourself for the record, please?
Yes, John Fogarty on behalf of the defendant committee.
You may proceed.
Thank you very much. Thank you for hearing me. We understand that statutorily we do not have an adequate defense. I will prepare you for a settlement offer that will be made next month when I have authority. But this committee has about $19,000 in its coffers right now. The fine is $19,000. Over the last year, I think this year they've raised about $1,000. So it's a smallish committee. And yes, this was a new treasurer for a committee that has been around for decades, and they've had a very clean record for decades. She had quite a bit going on in her life. This all occurred in the course of just one quarter, and it was just missed day ones. She is right on all of that now, and things are improved going forward. So, today, we understand what you might be bound to do, and I'll offer you a settlement at a future date. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Mr. Fogarty? Is there anything else, Madam General Counsel?
I would suggest a motion to accept the recommendation of the hearing officer as modified by the general counsel, because I corrected that one date in the hearing officer report.
Is
So
there a
moved.
motion and a second?
Second.
Roll call, please, Mrs. Calvin.
Ms. Ballarcroft,
Yes.
Ms. Craig?
Yes.
Ms. Genovese?
Yeah.
Ms. McCrory?
Yes.
Mr. Turbin?
Yes.
Mr. Brett?
Yes.
Vice Chair Donahue?
Yes.
Chair Watson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you,
Thank
Mrs. Calvin. Madam General Counsel?
The next item for which we have an appearance on file, agenda item 18. Oh, okay.
We can do either order.
Oh, okay. Actually, Mr. Casper just gave me an appearance for an earlier numbered case. So let's call that first. So we're going through consecutively. That's item 5A12, FDE versus Friends of Walter Burnett Jr., 23 AM 10. Here, the committee is appealing a $500 civil penalty assessment for the 62-day late disclosure of a $1,500 contribution dated April 10th, 2023, as well as a $1,000 civil penalty assessment for the 27-day late disclosure of a $2,500 contribution dated May 30th, 2023. The committee offered no defense at the appeal hearing, and so I agree with the hearing officer that the appeal should be denied for lack of an adequate basis and $1,500 owed.
Thank you, Madam Chair, everyone. The committee feels that we got substantial justice from Mr. Nauman.
Mr. Casper, you didn't identify yourself for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry. Michael Casper on behalf of the responding committee.
Thank you. Proceed.
As I said, we agree with Mr. Nauman's calculations and feel that we got a fair shake, so just wanted to say that.
Any questions from board members? Is there a motion and second to accept the recommendation as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please, Mrs. Calvin.
Ms. Ballarcroft?
Yes.
Ms. Craig?
Yes.
Ms. Genovese?
Yes.
Ms. McCrory?
Yes.
Mr. Turbin?
Yes.
Mr. Brett?
Yes.
Vice Chair Donahue?
Yes.
Chair Watson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Mrs. Calvin. Madam General Counsel?
Moving on to the other case with Mr. Casper as counsel, and Casper is Kasper for the benefit of the court reporter who is shaking and nodding right now. So case 18, SBE versus Judge JohnAnderson.com, 23 AJ 37. I'll read my recommendation, which includes a settlement offer that was just delivered this morning. So hopefully that was distributed to the board members. Here, the committee is appealing civil penalty assessments totaling $11,500 for the late disclosure of 9 separate contributions of $1,000 or more, collectively totaling $15,000 in April and May 2024, between 37 and 50 days late. The candidate says he trusted someone to handle the filings who made mistakes. He also said he believed certain contributions were deposited into the committee's account by Vendor Democracy Engine without notice to the committee, but did not offer any proof of when the committee discovered the deposits or any other details for the board to consider. I agree with the hearing officer that the appeal should be denied for lack of an adequate basis. And moving on to the settlement offer that was submitted this morning, the committee is offering $4,000 to settle $11,500 in fines, which is just shy of 35% of the amount owed. The committee said these are its first citations in over 20 years, and all fines are from the same 2-week period in spring 2023. The balance ratio is 23%, and the ratio of fine to receipts is 34%. both under the desirable level of 50% or more. As neither the percentages of the fines nor the ratios comport with the settlement guidelines, I recommend rejecting the offer.
Attorney Casper, are you on this matter?
I am, Madam Chairman, members of the board, Michael Casper, K-A-S-P-E-R, for the respondent committee. Ms. Belwitz's math is correct, but the committee believes she's left out one pertinent fact. We only have $4,000.
Oh.
We had, at our last report, the balance we have is $4,114. And I offered to give you $4,000 of it, leaving $114 to pay my humble fee. You know, there's an expression about blood and turnips, and you know, we'll give you what we have. You know, the committee's ongoing. We'll try to raise some more, but that's, you know, all we can offer is what we have.
Can we confirm that? Because right now we have $49,478 as an average ending balance.
Average, what you have to do is you have to average the last
I know,
four. Yeah,
but the last
the last one we reported was
$4,114.
$4,114.78.
Can we confirm that?
Is Director Newman able to confirm that?
Yes, that's correct.
4,000.
But does that affect the average ending balance such that this offer would comport with settlement guidelines?
No, that total was already taken into account in the calculations.
Okay.
Member Craig?
I'm a lawyer. I might have done the
Craig has a
math wrong, but I
question.
think I got it right.
Member Craig, do you have a question?
No, thank you.
Okay, what was it that you just said, Attorney Casper?
I said that the committee only has $4,100 and I offered 4,000 of it. I'll give you the other 114 if it's better.
Well, 50% of the fines is $5,750.
Okay.
So since this is an ongoing committee, and this committee seems to want to be ongoing in the future, are they still in the midst of fundraising? Are they still
I
gathering
believe
funds?
so. I believe so. I don't think he's retiring or leaving. So.
Would he be able to make a 50% offer of $5,750?
$5,750? Sure, we'll take it.
There a
I
motion
hope
to
so.
accept?
I hope so. If we can have a couple of months to raise the money, maybe till the end of the year or something. I don't know how long you usually give to pay these.
Normally it's 30 days, but the board has discretion to lengthen that time if it sees fit.
Yeah, to the end of the quarter to raise the money. I mean, I can't.
I think we should lengthen the time given that the money is not currently in the account. I have no problem with that.
By the end of the year?
You want to give it 60 days?
60 days, what's today's?
So it'd be mid-November.
For simplicity, I think end of the year is easier for everyone to understand.
All right. Sold.
So
Is
then
there a motion
my,
to? There a motion to accept the settlement offer of 5,000? Did you say?
$750.
Yes. Is there a motion and a second to accept $5,750?
I make a motion
So
to
moved.
accept the recommendation of the general counsel, with respect to the denial of the appeal. I further make a motion to accept the offer as presented by Mr. Casper of $5,750. And that settlement payment should be made by the end of the year. Is that sufficient?
yes,
Second.
Roll call, Mrs. Calvin.
Ms. Bella-Croft,
Yes.
Ms. Craig?
Yes.
Ms. Genovese?
Yes.
Ms. McCrory?
Yes.
Mr. Turbin?
Yes.
Mr. Vrett?
Yes.
Vice Chair Donahue?
Yes. Sorry.
Chair Watson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Madam General Counsel.
Thank you. The next item for which we have an appearance on file, agenda item 5A20, SBE versus Citizens for Terrence Stuber, 23 JQ 183. Is someone here on behalf of the committee?
Yes.
Yes, in Springfield.
Excellent. I will read my recommendation, and then the committee will have an opportunity to address the board. The committee is appealing a $225 civil penalty assessment for the 3-day late disclosure of the June 2023 quarterly report. In this case, the candidate, who is also the chair, alleges he believes he already settled the $220 fine at issue when he was granted an impromptu settlement at the June 2023 board meeting during consideration of an appeal of an $1,190 fine. It's my understanding that the settlement was intended to include the $1,190 fine plus an additional $320 fine for late filing of a Schedule A1 in the fourth quarter of 2022 and not the $225 fine at issue here. However, I reviewed the lengthy transcript, and I do think there is sufficient ambiguity in the transcript that the committee may have reasonably believed this fine was included in its previous settlement, and therefore my recommendation is it may be wise for the board to either waive the fine or grant the appeal under these circumstances.
I have reviewed, and I think that I was the driving force behind that motion. It was my recollection that we had included all fines in that settlement offer. But my question to you, Marnie, is should we just waive the fine? Because this appeal should be denied, correct?
I do think waiving the fine is probably what makes the most sense here. I hope we can also give Mr. Stuber a chance to address the board, but it's good to know that your recollection is that all fines were included.
Will the witness please come forward? State his name and spell his last name for the record, please. And please keep your voice up.
My name is Terrence Stuber. Last name spelled S-T-U-B as in boy, E-R. I am the former candidate and the chair of this campaign committee.
You may proceed.
And I would tend to agree. I mean, I would graciously accept any waiver of fines, because that is what I actually was asking and intending to ask the last time I was before you. And I would appreciate if you are willing, I would gladly accept.
Just to be clear, we would waive the fines only on this particular, whatever fines we levied on the last go around.
I have already paid all of those fines.
Perfect. Best candidate ever. Thank you.
So just to be super, super clear, the recommendation is to waive the fine of the $225 civil penalty assessment for the 3-day late disclosure of the June 2023 quarterly report, case 23JQ183.
And deny the appeal.
And deny the appeal.
Right. So moved.
Is there a second? Roll call, Ms. Calvin.
Ms. Bellercroft?
Yes.
Ms. Gray?
Yes.
Ms. Genovese? Yes. Ms. McCory?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Mr. Brett?
Yes.
Vice Chair Donahue?
Yes.
Chair Watson?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Madam General Counsel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next case for which we have an appearance on file, agenda item 5A23, SBE versus Citizens for Hampshire Parks District Referendum, 23SQ 207. We have an appearance on file from Attorney James Vasselli, Vasseli. I will read my recommendation and then the attorney will address the board. The committee is appealing a $500 civil penalty assessment for the 64-day late filing of the September 2023 quarterly report. The committee also has unpaid penalties totaling $450 for 2 additional late quarterly reports for a total of $950. The committee has filed a final report and has no plans to reopen. The committee's attorney, Mr. Vasselli, said the committee was new to the process and eventually hired professional help. I agree with the hearing officer that the appeal should be denied for lack of an adequate basis. However, if the committee remains closed for 2 years, the fines will abate and not need to be paid so long as the committee remains closed. And Mr. Vasselli, if you could stand under that green light up there.
Under that green light. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
I feel like I'm on stage. Thank you. This was the committee's first time. The committee has dissolved. The committee did hire professional help, as counsel articulately said, and it does intend to not reorganize in any manner. Obviously, any mercy from this board would be appreciated. It was their first time out. They do not plan on reorganizing within the 24-month period.
Are there any questions from the board members?
I do have one question, if that's okay for counsel or for the, if the board decides to impose this fine, against my strong objection, when does the, it would be abated, so there's no time period on there. Okay, excellent, thank you.
If he reopens the committee within the next 2 years, it will come back.
Got it, and that would be 30 days afterwards.
2 years.
Right, but if they did reopen, which they do not plan on doing, 30 days?
30 days.
Would they have to pay?
Right, yeah.
Okay, got it, thanks. Thanks, and again, that's only if the board still imposes that fine.
Right.
But thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Madam General Counsel, your recommendation?
My
Yeah, the
recommendation is to deny the appeal, and the hearing officer agrees with that.
Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
The roll call, please, Mrs. Calvin.
Ms. Ballarcroft,
Yes.
Ms. Craig,
Yes.
Ms. Genovese, Ms. McCrory,
Yes.
Mr. Turbin,
Yes.
Mr. Brett,
Yes.
Vice Chair Donahue,
Yes.
Chair Watson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Mrs. Calvin. Madam General Counsel.
The final case for which I have an appearance on file is Agenda Item 5A25, SBE versus ZPACT, 23AF49, and also 23AD38. Is someone here? And yes.
Good morning, I am here.
Good morning, sir. Are you Attorney Theodore London? If you could please stand by that green little light over there, that would be wonderful. I will read my recommendation and then you'll have an opportunity to address the board. The committee is appealing civil penalty assessments totaling $32,000 for the late disclosure of 15 separate contributions totaling $49,000 received in August and October 2023. Most were disclosed 25 days late, and one was disclosed 53 days late. The late filings were attributed to being a new committee unfamiliar with the process. I agree with the hearing officer that the appeal should be denied for lack of an adequate basis.
Counsel, would you identify yourself for the record, please?
Good morning. For the record, my name is Theodore London, L-O-N-D-O-N.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Good morning. Again, I'm Ted London, representing ZPAC this morning. ZPAC is a new committee formed just a year or so ago, really to raise funds for one candidate. small committee, new, right now, there's only about $250 in the account. A fine that's being asked for is gonna be draconian to all the members of the board. I don't even think that the members of this committee want to proceed any further. I think we got into this committee thing, thinking it was gonna be a lot simpler than it is. It is not, and I don't think we wanna have any part of it. If you can just help us get out of this somehow without breaking all of the committees, of the members personally, we'd be grateful, because that's what it would amount to. Just the 4 or 5 members of this committee, we're gonna have to bear the burden of this fine. We don't want any more parts of this committee stuff. And so really what we're trying to do is find an exit strategy out of this, whereby, again, I'm not gonna have to go home and tell my wife, honey, I have to write a check for this money, for this blunder. So that's really where we stand.
Are you for certain that your committee is going to shut down and not run? Not do any activity for the next 2 years?
0.
Okay. And even those people who are currently associated with this committee cannot form a new committee under the same?
No one wants any part of this. We just want out. Yes.
So if you were to file a final report and then remain closed, and none of the players in the committee reopen any committee for 2 years,
Yes.
then the fines would abate and expire, and they would not be owed.
If we will certainly agree to that 100%. And we'd be grateful for it as well.
Right, so if you can reach out to Campaign Disclosure, they can help you with filing your final report. And once that final report is filed, that will begin the 2-year period.
Very well. Will there be some sort of order that I'll receive in this regard?
There will be an order to deny the appeal. And you know what, we can put in the order just a little note that if the committee chooses to close after the final report, after 2 years,
Yes.
the fines can abate.
I would appreciate that.
And if I could ask just for clarification, if any member associated with it happens to start a new one, then they're all liable again?
That is correct. They become liable, or rather, actually, it's the new committee becomes liable.
Okay.
So yeah, that is a distinction. The new committee would become liable for these fines. So everyone needs to be on the same page
Very
that
well.
they are not starting any other committee.
Very well. Okay. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you. Is there a motion to accept the recommendation of the general counsel with the explanation of the abatement?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Mrs. Calvin, please.
Ms. Bellercroft?
Yes.
Ms. Craig?
Yes.
Ms. Genovese?
Yes.
Ms. McCrory?
Yes.
Mr. Turbin?
Yes.
Mr. Brett?
Yes.
Vice Chair Donahue?
Yes.
Chair Watson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Mrs. Calvin. Madam General Counsel?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have one case that I would like to call because there is a bit of a deviation in it, even though there is no appearance on file. That's agenda item 5A17, SCE versus Democrats for the Illinois House, 22 AF 48. Here, the committee is appealing an assessment of $30,050 for the late disclosure of 18 contributions of $1,000 or more, totaling nearly $111,000 that were disclosed between 11 and 14 days late in July and August 2022. Our legal counsel, too, Sean Sarku, identified that there was an error in calculating the fine total. The proper fine total is $28,750, so the fine can be reduced by $1,300. So I would ask that the board accept the recommendation of the hearing officer as modified by the general counsel and reduce the fine by $1,300, which would mean that the appeal is granted in part and denied in part.
So moved. Second?
Second.
Roll call, Mrs. Calvin?
Ms. Bellercroft?
Yes.
Ms. Craig?
Yes.
Ms. Genovese?
Yes.
Ms. McCrory?
Yes.
Mr. Turbin?
Yes.
Mr. Brett?
Yes.
Vice Chair Donahue?
Yes.
Chair Watson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Mrs. Calvin. Madam General Counsel?
Thank you. I'm hoping we can have a group motion here, provided there is no one on the following cases. Agenda items 5A 13, 14, 15, 16, 21, 22, 24. And 19. So my recommendation is to deny all of those
Just one moment,
appeals.
one moment, please. You
Yes.
said items 13, 14, 15, 16, 21, 22, and 24. Is that correct?
And then I just supplemented it with 19.
Thank you. You may
So
proceed.
the recommendation of the hearing officer and myself is to deny these appeals.
I move to accept the recommendation of the hearing officer and the general counsel with respect to 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 19, 21, 22, and 24 of the agenda.
I don't
I
think
think we just-
17.
No, it's not 17, sorry. Modification, remove 17.
Second.
Roll call?
Ms. Ballarcroft?
Yes.
Ms. Craig?
Yes.
Ms. Genovese? Ms. McCrory?
Yes.
Mr. Turbin?
Yes.
Mr. Brett?
Yes.
Vice Chair Donahue?
Yes.
Chair Watson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We move now to other campaign disclosure items. Is that correct, Madam General Counsel?
That is correct. The first item, 5A26, is a list of assessments requiring board orders, and a motion is needed to enter these final assessments.
I move
And
to
your
enter the final
recommended
assessment.
motion?
I just heard Mr. Brett make a motion.
I did, yes. I move to accept the assessments.
Second.
Roll call, Mrs. Calvin?
Ms. Ballarcroft?
Yes.
Ms. Craig?
Yes.
Ms. Genovese?
Yes.
Ms. McCrory?
Yes.
Mr. Turbin?
Yes.
Mr. Brett?
Yes.
Vice Chair Donahue?
Yes.
Chair Watson?
Present.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next is random audits of political committees. That's informational. 28 is payment of civil penalty assessments. That is also informational. Next is complaints following closed preliminary hearing, which may be conducted in closed executive session pursuant to section 9-21 of the Election Code, as well as 10 ILCS 5/9-21 and section 2C subsection 4 of the Open Meetings Act, 5 ILCS 120/2 subsection C4. Is there a motion to go into closed preliminary hearing?
So moved. Second?
Okay.
Roll call, please, Mrs. Calvin.
Ms. Ballard Croft,
Yes.
Ms. Craig,
Yes.
Ms. Genovese,
Yes.
Ms. McCrory,
Yes.
Mr. Turbin,
Yes.
Mr. Brett,
Yes.
Vice Chair Donahue,
Yes.
Chair Watson.
Yes.